and fur, especially between July and October. Piripiri burr is a non-native plant introduced from New Zealand which has become established here. It rapidly spreads and has a negative impact on our native wildlife. Please ensure that it is not spread to other sites by checking your clothing and pets and removing any burrs before you leave Lindisfarne. Thank you for your cooperation. For further information, contact the Reserve Office on 01289381470. Text 1. Wild whales can now be weighed with drone footage. 1. In the past it has only been possible to measure the weight of free-living whales if they were dead and out of the water or stranded on a beach, but researchers have released aerial footage of them flying a drone over a mother and baby whale near Argentina to work out how much they weigh. They can do this by taking photographs to work out the length, width and height of the animal. This can then be compared to past measurements of the density of that particular species of whale's body to estimate its volume and weight. 2. Doing this makes scientists more able to study what the ocean giants eat, how their bodies change over time and how certain stresses affect their health. Knowing the body mass of free-living whales opens up new avenues of research, said Assistant Professor Fredrik Christiansen, from Aarhus University in Denmark. We will now be able to look at the growth of known aged individuals to calculate their body mass increase over time and the energy requirements for growth. We will also be able to look at the daily energy requirements of whales and calculate how much prey they need to consume. 3. Professor Christiansen and his colleagues tested their technology on 86 different whales off the coast of Peninsula Valdez, a nature reserve in Patagonia. They used a DJI Inspire 1 Pro, a drone worth about £3,500 and capable of flying more than 3 miles away from its controller. Text 2. #Kutu campaign. Adapted from an article by Matthew Weaver. 1. A group of Japanese women have submitted a protest petition to the government. The Kutu campaign. A play on words from the Japanese kutsu, meaning shoes, and kutsu, meaning pain, was launched by the actor and freelance writer Yumi Ishikawa and quickly won support online. A tweet by Ishikawa about having to wear high heels for a hotel job earlier this year went viral, prompting her to launch the campaign. Campaigners said forcing women to wear high-heeled shoes was asking them to suffer unnecessarily. Others also urged that dress codes such as the business suits for men be loosened in the Japanese workplace. 2. A similar petition against high heels at work was signed by more than 150,000 people in the UK in support of the receptionist Nicola Thorpe, who was sent home from work for wearing flat shoes. She was told to go home by an accountancy firm on her first day as a temporary receptionist in May 2016. For refusing to wear high heels. 3. The case prompted an inquiry on workplace dress codes, which highlighted other cases in the UK where women were required to wear heels, even for jobs that included climbing ladders, carrying heavy luggage, carrying food and drink up and down stairs and walking long distances. However, the government refused to change the law, claiming the Equality Act 2010 already made it possible to settle cases like this. For in 2017, Canada legally banned companies from forcing female employees to wear high heels, saying the practice was dangerous and discriminatory. And earlier this year, Norwegian Air was widely criticized for requiring female cabin crew to carry a doctor's note if they wanted to wear flat shoes. Text 3. Let the children sleep. Adapted from an article by Josh Gabaitis, science correspondent. 1. A new study has shown delaying school start times for teenagers can have major benefits. When students in their mid-teens started school at 10 a.m. instead of the usual 8:30 a.m., rates of illness decreased by more than half over a 2-year period, and they got significantly better grades, according to Dr. Paul Kelly of the Open University, the lead author of this new paper. Conditions as diverse as obesity and depression have been linked with excessively early school times and lack of sleep, and a growing body of scientific evidence backs callings for change, he added. 2. There is an increasing amount of research coming out showing similar effects from around the world, said Dr. Guy Meadows, who is co-founder of the Sleep School and was not involved in the study. He noted that British schoolchildren are the 6th most sleep-deprived in the world, with American children topping the rankings. Earlier this year, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine issued a position statement declaring that delaying school start times positively impacts student achievement, health, and safety. They have joined other major U.S. organizations, such as the American Medical Association, in calling on all schools to implement start times of at least 8:30 a.m. As it stands, many schools in the U.S. currently start as early as 7 a.m. 3 teenagers have different sleep requirements compared to older people. Adults might only require 7 hours of sleep, but according to a TED Talk given by neuroscientist Professor Russell Foster of the University of Oxford, teenagers need 9 hours for full brain performance. Besides, as we go through puberty, the rhythms that control the daily cycle of our bodies become delayed by a couple of hours. As a result, teenagers have a natural tendency to go to bed later than their parents. This, combined with the higher sleep requirement for teenagers, results in widespread sleep deprivation. Text 4. Further complications come from individual variation in sleep requirements. Some are larks who like to rise early, and some are owls who prefer to stay up late. Dr. Meadows said that recognition of individual sleep requirements was growing, with workplaces increasingly likely to offer 8. The world is recognizing that individual timing is important, he said. As for schools, Dr. Kelly thinks it is vital that pressure is applied to encourage schools to make significant changes to their schedules. Students themselves, and their parents, should realize that there is a problem, he said. This is a big issue that isn't just about sleep, but the mistiming of our society. Heavy dining. 1. The calorie content of meals in UK restaurants is excessive, and sit-down restaurants are unhealthier than fast food chains, recent research suggests. The research team looked at more than 13,500 meals on the menus of 21 sit-down restaurants and 6 fast food chains. 2. The study relied on information provided online by restaurant chains on calorie content. Only 1 in 10 meals was classed as healthy or fewer than 600 kilocalories, as recommended by Public Health England. And nearly half of the meals contained 1,000 kilocalories or more. Sit-down restaurants were 5 times more likely to offer high-calorie meals of 1,000 kilocalories or more than fast food restaurants, the research found. 3. Dr. Eric Robinson, lead researcher from Liverpool's Department of Psychological Science, said the results were shocking, but the number of calories consumed in restaurants is probably even larger than we assume now. Plate clearing is a common behavior. Also, our analysis did not include drinks, starters, desserts, or side orders. Burger meals in sit-down restaurants contained an average of 414 kilocalories more than burger meals in fast food chains, while salad meals in restaurants were slightly higher in calories on average than fast food salads. Dr. Robinson said portion size, the ingredients used and cooking methods could explain the difference, but he said the food industry had to make changes. It's really clear what the food industry need to do. They put the food on the plates. They need to leaven and reduce the number of calories that they are serving. The government is currently consulting on a plan to introduce mandatory calorie labeling in restaurants, takeaways, and cafes, which is likely to be ready in the new year. 5. Kate Nichols, Chief Executive of Trade Association UK Hospitality, said restaurants, pubs, and other hospitality businesses were already taking action to reduce calories and offer healthier dishes, but there were costs to consider too. Proposals to shrink the size of dishes or cap calories would be yet another burden for hard-pressed operators to absorb, resulting in prices going up and investment in businesses going down, inevitably negatively impacting the overall customer experience. Text 5. 6. Dr. Robinson said research showed that meals eaten in a restaurant contained more calories, and with more people having restaurant food delivered to their homes using online services, the problem could be getting worse. He added, however, that the fast food sector was now offering more lower-energy meals and healthier options, after pressure from campaigners to do so. This could be the most progressive country on earth. Adapted from an article by Angela Cumming. 1. Wellington, New Zealand. When 6-year-old Eddie Wrights decided the world needed a little more kindness, he did the only thing he thought would work. He wrote to his city's mayor and asked for help putting on an annual Kindness Day. Much to Eddie's surprise, Wellington Mayor Justin Lester wrote back. On November 16, New Zealand's capital city will be holding its first Manaki Day, Manaki being the Maori word for kindness, taking Eddie's ideas of how to encourage and celebrate charitable acts to improve the social well-being of citizens. For example, we can buy toys for children that don't have any, Eddie wrote. 2. The mayor's support for the new holiday is part of a new wave of progressive, child-centered politics sweeping New Zealand, led by Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, herself a new parent. Ardern was met with thunderous applause at the United Nations last month for her speech calling for kindness and cooperation from world leaders. Watched by her partner and their then 4-month-old daughter, Ardern pledged New Zealand would be a kind and equitable nation where children thrive, and success is measured not only by the nation's GDP too, but by better lives lived by its people. 3. New Zealand's social policies are remarkable, but its environmental policies also set it apart. Among the latest environmental policies are a ban on new offshore oil and gas exploration, and plans to generate 100% of energy from renewables as part of an aim to be carbon neutral by 2050. For, I think instinctively, we all feel that money is not the most important thing in life, says New Zealand public policy researcher Jess Berenson-Shaw. While having enough money does matter, she says, the problem is that excess wealth begins to erode the well-being of a country's citizens. Text 6. GT 0071A, 22-1, B1118 Lees Verdea. 5. New Zealand's next push will be for the compulsory teaching of the Maori language in schools led by the NZ Greens Party, which is part of Ardern's coalition government. There's nothing more indicative of a progressive society than one that truly treasures its indigenous language, says NZ Greens co-leader Marama Davidson. I hope what we can do is show leadership for how other countries can do things, Davidson says. 6. In late September, the Greenpeace ship Rainbow Warrior 3 docked in the city of Dunedin on its Making Oil History tour of New Zealand. The international crew spoke of Ardern and her pledge to end offshore oil exploration with almost reverential tones. The best thing about New Zealand is its politics right now, says Greenpeace NZ Executive Director Russell Norman. Jacinda Ardern has given hope to the world that if people make enough noise, then the politicians will actually listen. What she's done will change the course of New Zealand's history and hopefully the world's forever. The ice cream seller versus the Instagram influencers. Adapted from an article by Julia Wick. 1. Instagram has fundamentally changed the way the culinary industry operates in Los Angeles and beyond in recent years, but Joe Nicky kept it simple when he opened his food truck in 2014. Nicky sells his ice cream out of a vintage 1960s Mr. Softy truck. 2. Forget the made-to-be geotagged unicorn flavors or new inventions, such as black charcoal soft serve so popular with hip people that they stand in line halfway down the block to get a taste. Nicky's soft serve ice cream business offers 3 aggressively simple, old-style options: chocolate, vanilla, or twist, hence the name, CVT soft serve. But the influencers kept coming to ask Nicky for free ice cream. 3. At first I was confused, Nicky explained over the phone, before launching into a slightly different tone of voice to recreate one of the encounters. It's like, hey, what's up? So, I don't know if you follow me, but I have 100,000 followers. Could you hook me up with an ice cream? I'll post about you in my story. It totally threw me. I'm like, this is a $4 item. What are you talking about? And then it became normal, something that happened at least once a week. There was a constant barrage of influencers coming up to his truck demanding special treatment and devaluing his product, which, for the record, is a family recipe passed down from his father, who has long served soft-serve ice cream for dessert in his upstate New York restaurants. Nicky felt less than impressed by the newfangled approach to boosting the sale of his CVT soft serve. Text 7. 5. Nowadays, Instagram influencer marketing is a hard-to-miss, billion-dollar industry, but in many ways it's also still the Wild West. Instagram influencers tend to be digital natives who have a kind of credibility with their audiences that might be 23, to buy through traditional advertising. 6. The good influencers can really make you feel like you're a part of everything, said Evan Asano, founder and CEO of Mediax, a leading influencer marketing agency. And if the life that they're presenting is one that you too would like to lead, well, that influencer is arguably the world's foremost expert on just how to get there and what to do, where, buy and eat along the way. 7. The business of food influencers has grown like crazy, as Asano explained, and some restaurants take social media into account as they design their physical space. Restaurants can trend on Instagram, which not only generates buzz but can also translate into increased foot traffic and IRL dollars cycling through the cash register. 8. Restaurants giving free food to influencers used to be common, according to Asano. But that's changed in the last 2 years, when their impact began to diminish. Suddenly, everyone was an influencer, and they all wanted free stuff. 9. Recently, there's been a huge backlash about it, Asano said, explaining that many restaurants have made it a policy to no longer participate. If you just have 10,000 followers and you want a free steak, it's just not going to happen anymore. Restaurants and hotels now are getting flooded. Some get 30 requests a day, Asano said. 10. Every human has a breaking point. When Joe Nickey reached his, the small business owner found himself at a copy shop in West Hollywood on Sunday morning, printing and laminating a sign that read "Influencers pay double," to place in his truck window before he got to the Melrose Trading Post. And then, like many a citizen of the 21st century before him, he proudly posed for a picture with his handiwork and uploaded it to Instagram. Needless to say, it went viral. The Festival Guy. Adapted from an article by Katie Bain. 1. Tucker Gummer, 34, has dedicated his life to music festivals. As of June 2018, Gummer has logged more than 460 festival days of dancing, camping, listening, eating and generally having the time of his life at shows across the country. And in the process, he's grown quite savvy. 2. Gummer is now focused on helping fellow attendees optimize their own festival experiences and elevating festivaling to a legitimate hobby. Gummer says, "I quit my job and learned how to be a pro who makes festivals better and creates tools for festival goers." While his lifestyle may be non-traditional, Gummer doesn't have a house and spends most of the year on the road going to shows as the festival guy. He's continuing his family's legacy of turning hobbies into jobs. His grandfather was an avid golfer and his dad worked for the Division of Wildlife in Colorado. "My dad's entire job was to enforce the correct way to be an outdoorsman," Gummer says. "I was taught from a young age that there's a right way to do things." 3. Which is why what Gummer was seeing at festivals, litter, shoddy campsites, rude attendees, sleep deprivation, lost cars, keys, tents and friends, was so 28. He Googled "Guide to Festival Going" and found there wasn't a comprehensive manual like those written for golfers, fishermen, hunters, snowboarders, and hikers. There was no one he could pay to give him a lesson. So, he sought out festival veterans, the people with the comfortable chairs, organized campsites, and good shoes, and soaked up all their knowledge. For he then led by example, finding efficient ways to instill order, and thus greater levels of enjoyment, into the often disorganized and sometimes sloppy festival culture. He developed an app, Festivo, that helps fans discover new music, connect with friends and gather festival tips. Gummer knows what you should wear, how to pack your car, and how to avoid post-fest depression. Text 8. 5. All this information is in the Festival Goer's Guide, the book he has written. That should be required reading for any car full of 18-year-olds driving off to their first event. I've been able to cover every angle of festivals because I've made all the mistakes there are and paid my dues, Gummer says. In my first year of festivals, there wasn't one that I didn't have a moment where I didn't kind of feel like crying because my phone was dead, or I'd lost my friends, or I couldn't find my tent. 6. The crying days are long gone. Gummer is now the guy with the lights, the protein shakes and the earplugs. Sweet, funny and blessed with a huge and seemingly permanent smile, Gummer's love for festival culture and the music, community, nature and travel within it is obvious. Like his father before him, Gummer is a hardcore conservationist. "I was a 4-year-old and picking up trash on hikes with my dad, so it hurts my heart to see the litter at festivals." He posts a selfie of his clean campsite after every show, organizes 2-minute festival cleanups on Facebook and travels with his own reusable utensils to cut down on waste. 7. Last weekend, Gummer shared his 32-to-1 with hundreds of attendees at Michigan's Electric Forest. He says the best part of the festival was running into people who had benefited from his advice. One guy ran up and gave him a hug, saying he was able to get some sleep by following Gummer's 32-2 of removing the rainfly from his tent to create airflow. Telling this story with the same enthusiasm one might use to recap a great day of fishing or particularly epic day on the slopes, it's clear this hobbyist-turned-festival goer has found his 32-3. Personal account. Adapted from a column by Mark Sidwell. One this week, my mobile phone has been buzzing with strange numbers. Calls from Sierra Leone and Papua New Guinea. They ring once, and then the call ends. I block one number, and a new one pops up. This is a scam called wangiri. It originated in Japan, where wangiri means one and cut. Today, these short, mysterious calls are a worldwide epidemic, costing billions of dollars a year. Two wangiri fraudsters operate on an industrial scale. They use automated dialing machines to work through huge ranges of phone numbers, calling thousands every minute. The scam call is often from an overseas location where the fraudster's risk of prosecution is low, but its origin may also be masked, so you could receive a call that does not appear as exotic or unlikely as mine from Sierra Leone. 3. Every wangiri call ends after only 1 or 2 rings. The criminals at the other end then rely on the natural curiosity of their targets. Anyone who rings back to find out who called them will be connected to a premium rate line on the other side of the world. The fee simply for connecting the call will be high, and someone will then try to keep the caller connected 36, perhaps with a protracted conversation, or by placing them on hold or playing a recorded message. In a worst-case scenario, the scammers will also attempt to steal personal information from those who call back. For the true cost of the mistake will become apparent to the victims only when their next phone bill arrives, carrying a hefty charge, much of which will make its way to the scammers. Anyone who does call back also risks being added to a sucker list by the criminals. 37. The victim may receive even more wangiri calls. 5. Wangiri is not a new scam, but it shows no signs of dying out and may be on the rise again. Mobile phone operators are active in the fight against wangiri fraud, but it is hard to tackle at source. If you have been scammed, contact your operator and report suspicious numbers so they can take steps to block them. You can also try to request a refund of any charges, but be aware that operators do not accept liability for the costs of any calls you make to premium overseas numbers, so you may not succeed. If you start to get odd calls from overseas, or blank voicemails from strange numbers, there is only one way to be safe: don't pick up, and whatever you do. 38. Text 9. Who let the dogs in? Many cinema audiences are basically animals already. They spill popcorn on the seats, snog on the back row, and let their phones ring in the quiet bits. So, really, 5. Would anyone care if they also scent-marked the seats, sniffed each other's bottoms on the back row, and howled in the saucy bits? One cinema thinks not and is letting dogs come to attend special canine film season. Picture House Central in London has lined up a series of films about man's relationship with his best friend, the first of which, Heart of a Dog, will be open to dogs. Described as a reflection on love, language and death, inspired by the affection the 15 director had for her terrier, Lola Bell, the film seems perfect for thinking doggy style. It's a brave cinema that opens up their doors to dogs, and concerns have been raised about what would happen to the soft furnishings, admitted Claire Binns, program director at Picture House. She is 20, expecting a higher class of canine clientele and, in keeping with her expectations, will concentrate on more arty dog films. These range from the harrowing realism of Amores Perros to the documentary White God, about the struggles of a dog cast out onto the streets of Hungary for not being purebred. 25. If the screening goes well, Ms. Binns said Picture House might extend the woof cinema concept. Some interspecies issues may need to be addressed first. Not least the fact that Heart of a Dog has a 12 certificate. Is that dog or human years? Text 10. American Cheese Mountain. The U.S. has amassed its biggest cheese mountain for at least 100 years, reports the Washington Post. U.S. dairy producers now have around a 630,000-ton surplus of cheese which, if squashed together, would occupy roughly the same amount of space as Washington's Capitol building. US producers have for years been overproducing milk and turning it into cheese because it lasts longer without spoiling. Surpluses tend to peak in the summer months, because demand for dairy products falls in the warm weather and because cows tend to produce more milk in spring. But the main reason for the size of the cheese mountain is that Americans are simply losing their once legendary appetite for milk. They drink around half as much as they did in the 1970s. Text 11.